Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, it's been a day. It's been a couple days. It's been interesting as far as the MLB trade deadline goes. How are you feeling after all of the chess pieces have moved around?
Oh my Lord, it's been one of those days. Doing a little bit of work this morning, schoolwork, trying to get some football stuff done, and so I didn't finally start looking at stuff today until about noon. And I'm like, holy Moses, I'm already exhausted just looking at the few things, and then within the hours when everything blew up with Soto and Eric Hosmer and that, and so I'm. Very tired.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them I scratch my head about. Some of them I'm like, okay, that was a good pickup for this team. But I'm like, why in the heck did this one do?
We will get into all of them. We have not the full. There are a couple trades I'm not even going to mention. We have a large list of the trades that went down over the past week. It started quickly after our show as the Yankees traded for Benintendi literally like the next afternoon after our last show, and went through. The weekend was kind of quiet and I was a little worried. But I really think it was teams waiting for Soto and waiting for them to be told that they were out of the Soto deal and then moved on to their other options. The same kind of thing happened with a lot of the pitchers. Obviously, Luis Castillo was the main target. Frankie Montas was kind of second in line there. And there was a bunch of other pitchers that people were trying to get and for some reason didn't move. We'll get into those teams. The Colorado Rockies made absolutely no sense to me. Do they think they are still a contender? Why didn't they trade all of their rental pieces? It's a mess. So our first hour is basically going to be baseball for the most part, going through a bunch of these trades, kind of talking about what we liked, what we didn't like, where we see some of these contenders now. There were some contenders that just went, you know what, this year's not for us. There are other teams that one trade looked like they were selling, and then the next trade looked like they were buyers, and they were just trying to move pieces around. So we'll kind of get into our favorites now, as we have about 2 months left of the regular season. Obviously, the Yankees and the Mariners are playing their first of two series right now. Yankees are able to win the first game. Right now, the Mariners are leading the Yankees 6-3 through 5 innings. So we'll get into that, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of updates there.
Yeah, it's commercial break right now, as I have it loaded on the phone. So hopefully,
we'll get into our players of the week. Some interesting local sports news to get into, and then the second hour is going to be very NFL focused, but more NFL drama focused. As I don't know if I said it on this show specifically, or if I've said it recently on this show or before, but I have told Don at the Tribune, I've talked to Eric about it, our good buddy there. I've told Robert Taylor about it. I know I've told you as well that the NFL was not going to come down with the Deshaun Watson suspension length until the MLB trade deadline. And that came out yesterday during some of the MLB trade deadline stuff. And that's because then this Miami stuff hit also during the trade deadline. So the NFL loves to either, if it's good news, they want to go over the top of other sports good news and get all the headlines. But if it's bad news like this, they try to hide it under the rug a little bit.
Yeah, 100% as the drama has kind of spread out over stuff with Watson, and you hear some of the public interpretations of what went down, and I heard a great thing about how the NFL is a business, which it is, and we'll talk more about it and how the things came down, and how the NFL was kind of waiting on what the general public thought about the suspension before they decide what their move is, and they only have till tomorrow to figure that out.
Yeah, but of course they don't announce it before our show, so we have that to go on. We have to wait a week. We'll get into some NFL news. Robert's going to ask me a bunch of questions that I won't be able to answer. Hey, there's a football game on Thursday.
There is. Are you planning on
Kinda?
watching?
God,
Are you?
no. Absolutely not.
Even with the news today from Jags coach Doug Peterson not going to play ETN or Lawrence in that
Of course
game.
not. Why would you? The Raiders and the Jaguars playing the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. It's your first taste of NFL football. Training camps have barely been open, and these are the only two teams that play 4 preseason games still. Everyone else is down to 3. So, of course, these coaches are either not going to play their stars or they're going to play a series. And it's going to be a lot of no-name people out there. I'm not a preseason football guy. Like, I love the NFL, and I get hooked every Sunday once the regular season comes. But preseason, I'm just not that guy. I'm not going to get locked in and wonder who our third string linebacker is going to be. So I don't. That battle matters for the teams and those players, but for me as a fan, I don't care.
Yeah, I think I'm more. What I like to watch a little bit more during the preseason is yes, they're trying to get their roster set. Where's their depth chart at? But how many of the injuries happen? And
Exactly.
how many? There has been a fair amount of injuries to some people. A couple of retirements I was a little shocked about. But that's all for me. You know, it's just a way for the guys to get out there and practice. But I'm more wanting to watch: is this guy going to be ready to go? Is he there? You know what? For the most part, you know what the first guy behind the starting lineup is or who the backup is. But for the most part, for me, it's about, okay, is this guy ready to come back and start playing? Hence, Marquise Brown finally come off the PUP list today. So, now he can start practicing when Kyler Murray gets back. So, I mean, it's just, that's the main thing for the preseason for me, is just kind of watch the storylines, not much as watching the games.
Actually, the main storylines for me is always the injuries. That's why a lot of fantasy football leagues wait until the end of preseason to do their drafts, because people are going to get hurt. And I can't watch the preseason games because I'm just waiting for something bad to happen. There's a reason why I didn't watch Ric Flair's last match, because there's only going to be bad things to happen when a 77-year-old man's out there doing a professional wrestling match, getting bladed, and just no, it's be too uncomfortable, and I couldn't do it. We will not be talking about the Ric Flair last match. We will talk a little SummerSlam if we have time, because I think that was a pretty darn good show. And I watched Raw live for the first time in years. I've usually, with Raw and SmackDown and AEW stuff, I'll watch YouTube clips and keep up to date and watch the pay-per-views. I got interested enough to watch Raw, watched the whole 3 hours, and I was not disappointed. Triple H era is going to be a lot of fun. So we'll have lots of stuff to talk about for sure.
I haven't watched it yet, but I sent you a text yesterday and a link, and that came from my wife. My wife actually sat and watched SummerSlam with us. We watched it Sunday afternoon, but it was kind of interesting because she's excited about, as you know, and we shared with the viewers last week that Denise and I are going to go to the house show on the 10th, the day before NFL's first game. So we're going to have to hurry back where I can watch, my Ravens beat up on your Jets. But she's all excited about seeing Ronda Rousey. And now she's like, is she not going to be there in Spokane?
She was never. I think I told you that when you got tickets. Ronda Rousey was never, ever, ever going to be at the Spokane show.
It'll be interesting. I hope they
let her know too. Roman Reigns will not be there. No. Brock Lesnar will not be there.
No. So she was very excited. We'll talk about her excitement watching SummerSlam too. So
for sure. Your MLB score updates right now. Top of the 9th inning, Reds leading the Marlins 2-1. 7th inning, Nationals without Juan Soto beating up on the Mets, and the returning Jacob deGrom 4-1. Brewers and Pirates were tied at 0 going into the 6th inning. They're now in the 6th inning and tied at 3. Also at the end of the 6th inning, Diamondbacks over the Guardians 5-3. As mentioned earlier, Mariners over the Yankees right now 6-3 going into the bottom of the 6th inning. Toronto up over Tampa Bay 1-0. There was a no-hitter through 6, and that is gone for Toronto, but they still lead the Rays 1-0. 5th inning, the Braves over the Phillies 4-1 in the 5th. Twins over the Tigers 2-0 in the 5th inning as well. Also in the 5th, the Cardinals up over the Cubs 2-0. The Orioles put up a 5 spot in the top of the 3rd inning and lead 5-0 over the Rangers, bottom of the 3rd. The Red Sox, who got a good win against the Astros yesterday, and both of us were happy about that. They trail Houston right now 1-0 in the 4th. White Sox over the Royals 3-2 in the 3rd. And still to come, you have the Rockies and Padres second game of their doubleheader. Athletics and Angels and Dodgers and Giants, and completed. The Padres already defeated the Rockies once, 13-5.
And Anthony Rizzo just hit a home run, and so now your Yankees trail the Mariners 6-4.
That's 2 home runs for him in this series. How about Trevino with 3 home runs now in that series? He's been insane. But all right, let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's get into the MLB trade deadline, and let's start with the biggest trade that has happened in the final week. They got headlines all over the world. Joey Gallo is gone. Biggest trade. Nothing topped it. Joey Gallo is a Dodger, which a lot of people are now saying that could be a detriment to the Yankees in the World Series if those 2 teams met, and then Gallo hits a big home run in that series. Obviously, both teams would have to get to that point. But no, the main trade is Juan Soto. That's the one we were waiting for. You and I were both wrong. We will say that a lot out of our 10 predictions for the trade deadline, but we both thought Soto would stay with the Nationals till the offseason. He goes to the Padres along with first baseman Josh Bell, and the Nationals get Mackenzie Gore, who's a very good young pitcher, C.J. Abrams, and then a nice group of prospects in Robert Hassell III, James Wood, and Jarlin Susana, and they also get Luke Voigt. And we'll get to the reason why it was Luke Voigt in that trade and not somebody else here in a minute. But your first impressions of this trade?
It seems to me that how that team constantly finds a way to spend money and get talent there. They did the same thing with Fernando Tatis a few years ago. Now he's getting ready to come back. Hopefully the end of August, I was seeing a few minutes ago. So hopefully he will be back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get Manny Machado, and it was a huge amount of players. There's a lot of talent there that could easily go up against Mookie Betts and those guys. But it's just interesting to see a 2-run home run now by Josh Donaldson. So now it's all tied up.
I'm so glad we started this show.
Yeah.
Yankees woke up. They were asleep during this game.
Logan Gilbert should have been done. Logan Gilbert should have been done a half an inning ago.
I love it. So. Absolutely love it. But no, we'll kind of go through some of these prospects real quick. Again, Gore has had a taste of the majors. I think he's going to be a very, very good piece for the Nationals. Robert Hassell, the 20-year-old left-handed outfielder, He was a first-round pick in 2018. He's number 21 on the overall prospect board on MLB.com, whatever that is worth. He's in A+ ball right now, batting just under 300, has 10 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and 55 RBI in 75 games there. Expect to see him maybe next year, maybe 2024, kind of depending on what the Nationals see with him. James Wood is a 19-year-old left-handed outfielder as well. He was a second-round pick last year. He is number 88 on that top 100 prospect list. He's in single A right now, batting 321, 10 home runs, 16 stolen bases in 55 games. He's more of a 2025 estimated time, but one of those players that, you're going to have in your system for a very long time. And then Susana is only 18 years old. He was a top-ranked pitcher in last year's international class. Again, you're not going to see him for a few years, but all 3 of those players are now listed in the top 10 prospects for the Nationals. You get Luke Voigt, who has a lot of major league experience and has a couple years left on his deal. I like the haul that the Nationals got out of this. Obviously, you knew it was going to take a lot. We talked about the Mariners being a team that I thought should have went for Soto. They basically gave up this haul minus an MLB player to get Luis Castillo. So it's a decent haul for the Nationals. I think it's good for them in the future. But man, the Padres prove that any team out there saying, "Oh, well, we're small market." Padres are in like the bottom 5% or the bottom 5 markets in Major League Baseball. And they're going all in and spending all this money and creating a fantastic team. So anybody out there saying, "Oh, we're in a small market." No, your owner just doesn't want to spend money.
100%. Because I mean, right now, you're 11 games behind the Dodgers, but they're proving they want to still be in this thing. And right now, they're 2.5 games up in the wild card, with leading there right behind Atlanta. So I mean, they're playing for another run, and so can they not self-implode like they did last year? I think for me, that's the biggest thing. It'll be interesting to see if Soto is going to be that catalyst that's going to get this team to turn around. And they've got, a positive run differential. I think that's going to add even more to what they can do, and hopefully they can catch the Dodgers. But it's going to be tough.
I think they need to be more worried about catching either the Braves or the Mets for that top wild card spot. Have their 3 games at home right now. They're 4 games behind the Braves for the top wild card spot. We talked about that before with the Mariners needing that top wild card spot because that's the only way you get home games in that first round is to be the lowest division winner or the top wild card team. It's a best of 3 game series, all 3 games at the higher seed. So sure, the Mariners could snap their postseason drought, but if you're not that top wild card team, and the same for the Padres, you get 0 home games guaranteed because you have to win that wild card round to then get into the ALDS or NLDS as far as San Diego goes. I think they're too far behind the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are too good for San Diego to catch them. But I think they are trying to build a team that is going to be a very difficult out in the playoffs. I think they're set to be one of those playoff teams. But what a great trio. And that's where I want to bring this up real quick. Who has the better trio in the NL West? So now the Padres, once Tatis comes back, are going to have Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado. We'll say they're batting 2, 3, 4. Then you have the Dodgers with Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, and Freddie Freeman. Which trio would you rather have just for this season?
Just for this season? I still lean. I love the way that Mookie plays ball. I think Freddie Freeman has got that good. He's great talent. And they've played most of the year together already. What worries me is how is the dynamics of the team of San Diego going to be with basically just over a month and a half left in the schedule? How can these 3 guys gel, especially with Tatis not coming back until the end of August? So it will be quite interesting to see. Right now, I'm going to stay with the Dodgers. I mean, the chemistry is just their set right now. Taking nothing away from Machado and Tatis and Soto. They are great young players. That's the difference. That's the young side. I think in the next couple of years, you better watch out, San Diego. And if San Diego can end up signing Soto to a long term after these next 2 years, that'll remain on his contract. I think that's the big key.
Yeah, it's very difficult to write off the Dodgers at any point in the future because they are one of those teams, as obviously the Yankees are another, that can just spend the money and retool their team in free agency or in trades. And even as their players get older, they'll just replace them with great prospects and continue to have one of those top teams. But you have to think that if you try to predict where the National League is going to be in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be dominated by the Padres and the Braves. The Padres have really built a fantastic young nucleus, and the Braves have just signed everybody. Like all of their young talent are signed long-term. We'll talk about one of their big signings that they just had the other day, which kind of got lost in the shuffle. with all the trades. But I'm with you. I think this year you go with the battle tested. You go with Betts, Turner, Freeman. They all have a lot of postseason experience, a lot of World Series experience. And if you give me one trio for a playoff run, I will take those three as well. Eric Hosmer was supposed to go to Washington and rejected it. He has a no trade clause. So then they scrambled, and I feel so bad for Luke Voigt, who saw the news this morning that, oh my God, I'm on a team that now has Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado, and I'm going to bat like 7th on this team, and it's going to be fantastic. And then because Hosmer said no, he gets sent to Washington, who is 34 games under 500. So that's got to be a gut punch for Voigt. But Hosmer says no to Washington. So he ends up getting traded off to Boston. San Diego is going to pay most of the contract. It was a salary dump to try to keep them under the luxury tax. Red Sox also get a second baseman in Max Ferguson, an outfielder in Corey Rozier, and the Padres end up with left-handed pitcher Jay Groom, mostly because you have to get somebody back. But this was just a salary dump.
Yeah, and I think, though, Hosmer's going to be somebody to watch for, especially the way he hits there and how he likes to hit everything to left field. Now he's got a smaller porch there. He's got a big monster to get over, but a lot of those hits that he would have, maybe making it close to the wall are going to be up against the wall, hitting off the wall, easy doubles. So, this might benefit a guy that hits everything to the left side, left field. That's still one of the fields I want to go see before anything ever happens to Boston and Fenway Park, because just to even play, and I played MLB The Show the other night, and I happened to be in Boston, and that was everything I was trying to do, hit everything up off the wall, But that, I think that plays into Hosmer's game.
And a good thing for Hosmer and Boston, they're still in the playoff hunt, even though they were trading pieces all over the place. They're 3 games out right now. They're 3 games behind Seattle and Tampa Bay for that last wild card spot. Boston was not done. They gave up gave up Christian Vasquez for some prospects. I've not seen who they were just yet, but they do get a catcher in Reese McGuire from the White Sox to give up Jake Diekman in that trade. They also get Tommy Pham from the Reds for a couple of prospects. So they just had a lot of moving pieces to Boston. San Diego was not done. They got infielder Brandon Drury from the Reds, who's had a fantastic season. Give up a prospect and Victor Acosta there. So the Padres just revamping their already potent lineup to make themselves pretty big. You got to like what the Padres are doing. If just right now, just letter grade, if you could. Well, we try to do this with NFL drafts. You can't really do that with Major League Baseball drafts because who knows in so many years. But as far as the trade deadline, what grades are you giving the Padres and the Red Sox?
Yeah, you've got to really give probably A to A- for the Padres. I mean, for them and what they could possibly build for the future, and is what's intriguing with that one. And you hit it right on the head. The future in the next few years will be the Braves and the Padres. You look at how they keep shuffling people around. So for Boston, they did some changes. A couple of them I was a little shocked about. I think the Tommy Pham one was a little interesting. I was shocked, but we talked about Cincinnati was going to be sellers because of the way they come out of the season. So maybe that was a big push for them. So I would have to give Boston probably a B to a B plus with a few of their moves. Even though I think it's going to boil down to what kind of prospects they're going to get back in return from Houston. And that was the big thing. Before this morning, I thought Houston pulled off some of the biggest moves in the year.
Yeah, we'll get to Houston for sure. They made some very interesting trades. I cussed at Eric for being part of a 3-way trade to help the Astros. I've already given him crap about that. I'm with you. I'm going to give the Padres an A. Obviously, you get the biggest piece out there. They gave up a lot to get him, but they're trying to win right now. And the Red Sox, I'm going to give a C. It's kind of a wait and see thing. There's still a chance that they could get Christian Vasquez back in free agency, kind of like what the Yankees did with Aroldis Chapman a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Get a couple prospects for him, and then bring him right back into the fold. They're not out of it this year, but I think with the Chris Sale injury, they feel like they probably are on the outside looking in and not with a great chance. So try to retool for next year without completely dropping the team. I think they did some good stuff. Speaking of the Reds and their selling ways, they do trade Luis Castillo, sadly, to the Seattle Mariners. And of course, that happens right after the Yankees hit a walk-off. I'm so excited. It was a great win. And then I get that news, and I'm right back in the dumps because I wanted Luis Castillo on the Yankees. He ends up being a Mariner. And I have not heard a lot of people talk about this trade as far as Mariner fans, especially those that got on me about my article in the paper about how they needed to go after Juan Soto. And all I heard was, we don't want to give up the farm system. We don't want to give up the farm system. Well, you gave up the farm system for Luis Castillo instead. 3 of the top 5 prospects in the Seattle farm system go to Cincinnati in the trade. Now I'm just going to step back and let the Mariner fan talk. Go for it.
Listen, so out of the trade ones that I saw, the only name that really stood out to me out of the farm system that I know of is Marte, the shortstop, 20 years old. He was looking extremely well. I think they had to give them and my phone is resetting, so I don't know. You're cringing a little bit.
Another goddamn double play. Runners at the corners for the Yankees, 1 out. Hicks hits into double play. We're still tied going to the 7th. All right.
Yeah, my phone decided it was time to reset. So I'm having trouble getting my stream back up. But okay. Yeah, so Marte for me is the name that stood out that I was a little shocked with. But that is one of the bigger prospects there. Huge overall pick and youth. That's the biggest thing. He's a right-handed pitcher, so I think that, or shortstop, that I think he is going to be one of those players, in the next probably year and a half or so.
I think he's up next year.
You think so?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where he's at. Again, I was shocked after Castillo, and I was talking with a couple of guys that we needed one more bat, and I think there was a bat there. And after you and I talked, and the idea of giving up the few things for Soto, what could have been a great move.
Yeah. You add Kelnick to the deal that you gave to the Reds, to Washington, and they might say yes. It depends on what the Nationals felt about those prospects.
Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be interesting. I like the fact that it'll be nice to see him tomorrow, as Castillo is going to get the start tomorrow.
Now, what the hell is this? Like, all Yankee fans wanted Luis Castillo on the Yankees, and instead, his first 2 starts for the Mariners are going to be against the New York Yankees. He plays the Yankees tomorrow. That's going to be a great game. It's Castillo versus Cole on a Wednesday afternoon game, and then it should be Monday, I think, when Castillo will pitch again.
And it's supposed to be the MLB game of the afternoon, so we should be able to watch it on the MLB net. Cross our fingers.
I got to get one of these VPN things that all these ads talk about, so I can say that I'm in Florida right now, so I can watch the Mariners games. Usually I don't mind that I can't watch the Mariners because they're blacked out because I live too close. But I need a VPN right now so I can switch.
I am so frustrated. Like I messaged you, I'm so frustrated with Dish Network and Root Sports, how neither one of them want to work together, and it's just like But that tomorrow's game will be interesting. But as far as Levi Stroud, he's another right-handed pitcher. Give up another shortstop in Arroyo, also youth. I mean, we're talking kids that are just below 20 years of age, and it's hard to say. I mean, you look at some of these kids, how are they going to end up panning out? And so it'll be interesting.
They could be fantastic. They could be complete duds. And again, Kelnick was the can't miss prospect, and so far in his couple trips to the majors, he's missed a lot. Also with the Mariners, they get Jake Lamb from the Dodgers for some cash. I think that is kind of a stopgap with the Julio Rodriguez injury.
Mm-hmm.
Him getting hit in the hand kind of messed things up. Now you really wish he had Juan Soto to fill that gap. But Mariners right now, their outfield is just full of injury news. Kyle Lewis has been battling injuries all year. Mitch Haniger trying to get back. Now you lose Julio Rodriguez. This is a very, very good team. And if they can make it to the postseason, they're very dangerous, especially now with Castillo being your number one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dangerous team, but the injuries start to pile up just a little bit.
Yeah, Haniger's supposed to hopefully be back within the next week. He'll miss the next series with Atlanta or New York, so hopefully to get him back for next weekend is what I was hearing. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But I think that is what they're banking on. The Mariners are banking on getting Mitch Haniger back, and if he can get the bat going, maybe that saves that, like you were saying, with the protection of Julio. Ty France, Cal Raleigh is finally getting some pop in his bat, and I love your faces because I can't get my phone to re-up, so I can't see
just talking about Kelnick, and he gets benched for Haggerty, and Haggerty hits a home run.
Well, I like that. That's okay.
That's not okay. 7-6 Mariners, top of the seventh, one out. One thing we forgot to talk about with the Padres, I did not move it up into their little group, but they do get Josh Hader too from the Brewers. That is absolutely amazing to me. He's struggled a little bit this year with Milwaukee. We'll see what he can do with San Diego. Gives up a couple of prospects, and the Nelson Lamet, who's a decent starting pitcher. So Padres again with that big move. Tyler Mahle from the Reds ends up going to Minnesota. Minnesota, I thought, had a fantastic trade deadline. We'll get more into that.
Get him out of there. Get him out of there. Your buddy Boone is going to take him out. So
why do you want Licky out? He just gave up a home run and a single. Do you want him to stay in the game? What are you doing?
I do.
What are you doing? Yeah, well, I want him out. San Diego also signed Joe Musgrove to a 5-year, $100 million extension, just making that team better. Yankees, they don't get Luis Castillo, so they go for the next best thing. They get Frankie Montas and Lou Trevino, who was a great closer, has definitely struggled a lot this year. As they give up some prospects. Ken Waldichuk, I think, is the big name there. 24-year-old, has 116 strikeouts and 76 innings pitched in AAA. Fantastic arm for the Yankees, now going to Oakland. Also, J.P. Sears, who was 3-0 with a 2.05 ERA in his 7 appearances with the Yankees this year. He was drafted by Seattle in the 11th round back in 2017. He gets moved. A couple other prospects as well. Montas will join the Yankees when they go to St. Louis later on in the week. Right now, he's dealing with a death in his family, so we'll see him later on in the week. And also, they traded for Scott Efros, who is now the new pitcher going on to the mound right now, making his Yankee debut. Got him from the Cubs, and I've heard great things about him. And the crazy thing about that is usually, trade deadline, these contenders trade for rentals. They're free agents after the end of this year. Maybe they have 1 year left. Efros has like 6 years left. He's super young, and we'll see what he is able to do against the Mariners here. I like that trade. Again, we talked about Andrew Benintendi from the Royals. He has walked a lot. So coming to the Yankees, he might have a hit, maybe one. He has not hit a lot yet, but we will let that play out. And again, Joey Gallo, gone. Absolutely gone. So I would give the Yankees an A+. But then right before the trade deadline, like 10 minutes before the trade deadline, they trade Jordan Montgomery, who has struggled, for an injured Harrison Bader from the Cardinals. And I'm watching Talking Baseball with John Boy and Jake and Trevor Plouffe. And they're just losing their minds trying to figure out, okay, this has to be a trade to set up another trade. And we waited and waited and waited, and there was no other trade. So I'm going to give the Yankees a B+ as far as what they did in the trade deadline. I did not get your grade for the Mariners, though.
I think the Mariners are right at probably a mid-B. The only reason I think they could have easily added one more bat. I think they needed one more bat. whether it was to get rid of Kelnick. As much as I was on Kelnick last year to be that new player, he just hasn't stepped up. On the same breath too. Mitch Haniger has been, and I love watching Mitch Haniger play. He has been so injury prone the last 3 years that, when is it going to be time to cut ties with Mitch Haniger? And I hate saying that, but it is what it is. I think the big moves to get Jesse Winker earlier, to start the season, I think that was great for the Mariners. But they needed to get one more bat there, so I'm going to give them a B. The thing that I wanted to ask you about is I watched, and you and I were messaging back and forth, is how many people were losing their mind when Joey Gallo came and pinch hit for IFK the other day.
IKF.
Or IKF, and I knew it was so. How many different videos I saw on TikTok, on Facebook, of people going absolute crazy. Now you're traded him off, and I think he batted 150
with like 180 strikeouts and 500 plate appearances. It was horrible. But to Joey Gallo's credit, I think nobody's more upset with his performance with the Yankees than he is. But that's what I think he needed to move. The Yankees and obviously the New York fan base is very brutal on a player that overthinks. Some players can thrive in it. Some struggle. Randy Johnson's a fantastic Hall of Fame pitcher. He sucked with the Yankees. He could not deal with the media. He could not deal with the pressure, and because he just overthinks things a lot. I think that's the same with Joey Gallo. And if he could figure things out with the Dodgers, he could be a great piece for them.
And that with that being said, I thought the same thing. Gallo being down in Texas, smaller market, and I think that's the one thing that's scary is Gallo's going from big market to big market. Even though you're going from East Coast to West Coast, I think it's still
Los Angeles is a bit more laid back.
Right. But it'd be, I think he would have fit probably better in a smaller marketed area, to get out of that, because that was the thing that crossed my mind too is, is it too big for what he's doing? Because we know in the past what he's capable of doing. I just don't think that the pressures of Yankee fandom was in his best interest. So
he should have made some good moves. They get Trey Mancini from Baltimore in a 3-team trade. The only 3-team trade we had the whole day that I saw. The Rays get Jose Siri in there. Orioles get a couple prospects. Also, Houston trades with Atlanta. They switch a couple arms around. Astros get a reliever in Will Smith. Braves get Jake Odorizzi. So I like the moves that Houston made. They didn't make a ton. They were kind of quiet there at the end, but it's just a good team getting better.
When I had the chance, I talked with Denny Grubb. I messaged him after the move with Mancini, and he says that they were posed to make a huge move, and with that happening, so he knew it was coming. He even told us that was the player he figured was going to be out there.
And Trey knew too. It was one of those where Baltimore is going to stick with their guns of where they thought they should be in the upcoming years. Obviously, this year's kind of been a surprise even to them with how well they have performed, but they weren't going to have that mess up their setup, I guess. Screw making the playoffs. Let's try to make the playoffs next year. Let's run through a couple of these other ones real quick. Again, I thought the Twins had a great trade deadline. They got Jorge Lopez, the closer from Baltimore. They also get Michael Fulmer. So good bullpen help. And the Orioles are leading. So Treyu, they can still make the playoffs, which is the fun part.
Looking at the other, Soto, who as the Nationals are now leading 5-1 over the Mets. So
the Mets were. Oh, there's going to be a base hit. Oh, man. Okay. Efros gives up a hit to Suarez. No runs scored on the play. Let's run through the rest of these real quick as we're getting close to the top of the hour already. Toronto gets Whit Merrifield. Whit Merrifield, who is not vaccinated. and has to be vaccinated to play in Toronto. Obviously, he's going to get vaccinated, or that trade would be really weird.
That was one of the head scratchers today. I'm like, and that one happened within the last hour of the trade deadline. I'm like, what is Kansas City doing sending him to Toronto? I mean, where does Merrifield fit in the picture in Toronto with
he's a good player. He can play anywhere in the infield.
It's going to be interesting.
Anywhere. And you can't have too many good players. It's just he's got to get vaccinated first. They also get Anthony Bass, a good reliever. He has a 1.41 ERA over 44 innings pitched. Struck out 45, walked 10 so far. Braves, I thought, had a pretty good trade deadline. They get Robbie Grossman from Detroit. Again, Jake Odorizzi from Houston. Right at the deadline, it actually got revealed after the deadline as news started coming through. They get the Angels closer, Raisel Iglesias. The crazy thing about that trade is they traded Jesse Chavez, who's a right-handed pitcher, who has been a part of 10 trades in his 15-year career, including twice this year. So that guy just does he ever unpack, do you think?
I doubt it. As much as he's bounced around, it's been interesting. So
I run through the rest of these real quick. Cardinals get Jose Quintana from the Pirates. Rays get David Peralta from the Diamondbacks. Phillies get David Robertson back. They get him from the Cubs. Noah Syndergaard late goes from the Angels to the Phillies, and Darren Ruff goes from the Giants to the Mets, and they give up J.D. Davis, who I thought was a good piece to their team, as well as 3 prospects there. One team that we did not say this entire time, the Colorado Rockies, who have like 5 players that are free agents on their major league roster. None of them moved. The Cubs made a lot of moves, but Wilson Contreras was not one of them. Carlos Rodon did not move.
Ian Happ did not move either.
Ian Happ from the Cubs also did not move. You're correct. Pablo Lopez was a lot of interest was around him from the Marlins. He did not go. There was a lot of talk of Gleyber Torres with the Yankees. That didn't happen either. So out of just the last few trades that I sent you, which one's going to have the biggest impact? Because we obviously kind of ran through them because they were kind of all bunched together, but one of those trades might make a bigger impact than we're giving off.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I think for me, and it's going to be shocking, I'm going to say Noah Syndergaard. I think Noah can add another arm there for the Phillies. If Phillies want to try to force their way back into the playoffs right now, I think that might be what they're looking for. I think I would have to go that way.
Now, getting him and David Robertson right now, they are the last wild card team, 1 game ahead of St. Louis, 4.5 over the Giants, who seem to kind of sell off some of their pieces, but didn't go fully out. I'm with you. I really, really like that trade. To me, that Iglesias trade right at the end for the Braves. They're always so quiet. Like they completely rebuilt their outfield last year, and everyone was going, they didn't really do much. Then they went out and won the World Series because of all the moves they made.
Right.
So they kind of do the same thing here. They get a starter and they basically turn Will Smith into Raisel Iglesias, and I think that's a fantastic move for them.
Yeah, I think it's a good one too. I'm shocked that the Angels are giving up on those two, especially with the idea of there was talk with Shohei going to a trade, but I think
just enough to get Yankees interested again. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're not going to get Soto. We didn't get Luis Castillo. Shohei Ohtani, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the offseason. Before we get into our power rankings, thoughts on Mike Trout and his back injury? I mean, when you have to carry the Angels as much as he has over the year, of course you're going to get a back injury, right?
Yeah, it's just still dealing with the same thing with even from the All-Star break. He just has not, with him not playing at the All-Star break and doing all that and taking the time off, how long can they keep holding on to him? And he's still fairly young. I mean, as far as baseball years, I think he could easily be playing another probably 7 to 8 years. But as much injuries he's had the last 2 years, it's a little questionable.
I think he's going to DH a lot more than he was hoping for early on in his career or middle of the part of his career. But hopefully he can recover from that. And it's not, it's going to be a nagging injury the rest of his career, obviously. but hopefully it's not too bad. All right, let's get into our power rankings and stuff. We're not going to do Who Am I this week. We're not going to do our sports-related draft this week because we just don't have any time to go through any of this stuff. As we're almost at the top of the hour. We have not gotten to any of this stuff, and usually baseball is done a long time ago. Let's get to our power rankings. Luckily, I think for both of us, our top 5 for the 83rd straight week are the same 5 teams, just in a different order.
Yep.
It's Dodgers, Yankees, Astros are the top 3. Put them in whatever order you want. We agree that it's the Dodgers, then the Yankees, and the Astros right now. And I am very hesitant about the Yankees over the Astros, but I like some of the things that the Yankees did before the deadline. So I moved them up to 2. And then it's the Mets over the Braves because that's where they are in the standings.
Yeah, 100% exactly. Right now, it's a coin flip each week of where they're at between these 3 teams. And it'll be interesting to see how the changes over the week happen. I think with Mancini coming into Houston, that might bump them up a little bit more over the next couple of weeks.
Our bottom 3, my bottom 3 are the exact same 3 teams in the exact same order: Detroit in 28th, Oakland in 29th, and Washington in 30th.
I move. I'm going to leave the Nationals still there. I flip-flop with Oakland. Oakland did a little bit better this past week, but I got a new team in the bottom 3. Give me the Pittsburgh Pirates. They losing 14 of their last 16 games, so on a big skid. So I moved them down, put them in 28th position.
Yeah, they are falling apart too. We have now hit that part of the season where it's the haves and have-nots. There's only a few teams that are kind of in that middle ground. I think San Francisco's one, Baltimore's another, Boston's kind of in that group. Both the Guardians and the White Sox, surprisingly, I don't think made a ton of moves during the deadline, but they are very much in that hunt, as the Twins made all the moves in the AL Central. So we still have some decent races, but there are some horrible teams out there. Who's your player of the week this week?
Player of the week for me, I'm going to go back up north and go to the Canadian team. Give me Matt Chapman, third baseman for Toronto, 8-17, 4 big home runs, 8 RBIs, and his OPS is just nuts this week, 1.7. With that being said, I left your boy for you again, as I was doing stuff earlier than you did, and I let my Yankee man have his Yankee.
Man, Aaron Judge, this is second straight week that not only I, but MLB has named Aaron Judge player of the week. Just what he has been doing since the All-Star break. Here in this last week, batting .348, 7 runs, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, and a stolen base. He's on pace now for 67 home runs. Had his 3rd walk-off home run of the year back on Thursday. Again, I was so happy about that. And then the Luis Castillo stuff happened. He has 9 multi-home run games this year, which is already a Yankee record. We just hit August. The man is on a completely different level right now. Mm-hmm. And if I say over under 61 home runs for Judge, what do you say?
The way he's going right now, I'm going to take the over. And it just crazy to think about what he is doing there. So I pose this question to you because with this home run he has been on and how he's hitting and who he's stacking up to, and with everything going on with the show, The Captain, we talked about The Captain and all of that. Could you easily put Aaron Judge now in the top 5 Yankees of all time?
No, absolutely not. Right. The Yankees' history is so insane that he might end up being in the top 5 for a single season.
Where, if you had to pick him for an all-time, where would you?
I don't think he's even top 20 right now. He's only been here a few years.
Right.
Right. He has made a huge impact, and I hope the Yankees sign him long term. But he's had a lot of injuries. He just hit 200 home runs this past week, all time. He's got a ways to go before he gets up into that upper echelon. You talk about the upper echelon in the Yankees, you got to be there like 15 years.
Mm-hmm. As your boy's up right now, and he just fouls it off. He's 0 for 1 today and 2 walks. But
stop walking him, please. Denny Grubb wants us to look at Santander's last week. This includes yesterday's game because I can only look back last 7 days, but 458 batting average, had 11 hits and 24 at-bats, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. It's a decent week. It's not Aaron Judge, but it's a decent week.
Yeah, huge decent week. I mean, it's Aaron Judge and who else is there to clean up this week is what it seems like over the last few weeks. So,
and Judge strikes out. Never mind, he's not the player of the week anymore.
Listen, my phone, I finally got caught up. I'm like 30 seconds behind where you're at.
Good. Wow, spoilers. What's your series to watch this weekend?
For me, and right now, the way the Mets are playing, it's going to be interesting. But I'm going to take the Braves and Mets. Right now, they are fighting it out for that position in the NL East. So it's going to be an interesting finish to this one. And especially where right now, just 3.5 games separated. New York is losing right now. This could be a swinging moment for this ball club, especially with the way Atlanta has made a lot of moves in the last few days.
Yeah, you beat me to that series, but I picked this before the big Juan Soto trade. It makes it even better. But Padres and Dodgers in a 3-game set this weekend. Again, I don't think the Padres are going to catch the Dodgers for the division, but this is a good measuring stick test, whatever that phrase is called. For the Padres, can they hang with the Dodgers right now? Obviously, they don't have Tatis yet, but I mean, they want to go out there, try to win at least 2 of 3 from the Dodgers just to show, hey, we're here, and that'll be an interesting series to watch. And again, it's a one good thing with it being in LA. It's after the Yankee games get done, so then I can switch over to one of those West Coast teams and see how they're doing as well. Some local sports news. As all the Legion stuff is starting to wind down, the Lewis Clark Cubs were eliminated in the 2022 Idaho Class Single A American Legion Baseball State Tournament in Pocatello. They lost their first game of the tournament to Valley, who was the defending state and regional champions. Then they went on a good run, got down to the final 4 teams, and lost to Minico 9-8. And it's a sad story because LC was leading 8-0. In that game and kind of let that one slip away. Minico ends up winning the tournament as they defeated Valley 11-5 in the title game after Valley beat them in the first chance for Minico to lock it up. So for the Cubs, they lose to 2 teams that finished first and second, but still kind of a heartbreaking way to end their season, giving up an 8-run lead. Austin Arnett, who at some point in the future will be torturing us, and I need to get him on the phone because we're supposed to do a preview on the Tribune, but I can't get a hold of him yet. He's going to be fighting down in Boise this Saturday, and it's a weird title, the Lightweight Front Streets Fights World Championship.
Yeah, and don't know what that is all about. We're just more excited about that happening and him finally getting get back into the swing of it in the UFC, and hopefully this is a big push to get him back up into some of those big bouts, and excited for him. If you're in the Boise area or want to take a trip, make sure you go down and watch this man fight. Just watching his practice with our buddy Brian McElroy, what he does as just a sparring guy, he is hands down all out every time you're hitting and practicing. It's tough, and especially for being a fighter, I don't think you can ever take that. I can't hit hard right now. I just gonna go through the motions. I mean, you have to, go through it and go 100% even when you practice.
That's why when we do that punishment, you're training with him.
I don't know about that. We're close. We're close.
Also, how about Moscow High School alum Veronica Hewers, who's 27 years old? She finished 9th in the Tour de France Femmes, which is the first time they have brought that event back since 1989. She has only been part of the Pro Cycling Tour for years. It was one of those things where her friends like, hey, you should come cycling with us. Sure, why not? Got hooked on it, became fantastic at it. She finished 9th in the 144 rider field in the female version of the Tour de France. She finished 7th in that final stage that was on Sunday. She's the best out of any of the U.S. riders in that competition. Congratulations to Veronica. It was one of those cool stories that we were kind of following at the Tribune and posting each day about. Is she just continued to work her way up the rankings. I think it was the 4th stage she finished 4th or 5th, and she really moved up and was in like the top 15 there. And then every single stage she just continued to move up the ranks. So congratulations to her for finishing in the top 10.
Yeah, 100% is. We were worried about some local sports, and she's bringing it back. And we've talked about this many different ways. There's something about this area that just has some sport athletes, some great athletes that are going out making names for themselves, and excited for her and what she did. And especially, like you said, she's only a year in.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. She's a year in, 27 years old, and still is doing this and competing at a high level. So excited for that.
Yeah, don't worry. A lot of other local stuff will get going as high school sports get ready to kick off. We were talking about the volleyball schedule this week with Alicia and what we were available for. There's a lot of news out there. There is also one piece of news that I'm not sure I can say yet. So
I wouldn't do it yet. So
I'm still waiting for super official news. A word on it. So we'll keep it hush hush until next week.
Right. Like you and I were talking, there's lots of things getting ready to happen. Clarkson football starts up, and also Asotin football starts up in 2 weeks. We start in 3 weeks of the middle school. I know volleyball camps are wrapping up right around here, so we got a lot of things going on with that. I've already seen some basketball schedules starting to come out for the college ranks up at WSU and Moscow. So it's time to get in full swing for local stuff.
Yeah, we're going to continue to rebrand our show once we hit our 3rd season, I guess is what you can call it. Once we hit back in the studio, we'll reformat some things and try some different things out and come back really strong here in about a month. But finishing off the summer, quickly give you the baseball scoreboard as I move it over to a screen I can look at. Like I said, the Mariners still leading the Yankees 7-6. They're in the top of the 8th right now with 1 out. Rockies and Padres just about to get started. Pirates now leading the Brewers 5-3 in the 8th inning. Bottom of the 9th inning, last chance for the Guardians. They trail the Diamondbacks 6-3. Braves all over the Phillies 9-1 in the 7th. Twins leading the Tigers 3-2 in the 7th inning as well. Bottom of the 7th, it's all Cardinals over the Cubs 6-0. Grubb is ready. O's over the Rangers 6-1 in the 6th inning. Now tied Boston and Houston. It's a game I'm going to turn on once we're done with this show if it's still going on. We still have an hour left, but hopefully it's still close. They're tied at 1 in the 6th inning. White Sox over the Royals 5-2 in the 5th. Angels over the Athletics 1-0 through 1 inning. Scoreless between the Dodgers and Giants through 1. And the Reds ended up beating the Marlins 2-1. Nationals beat the Mets 5-1, and the Blue Jays beat the Rays 3-1. And again, we already said earlier, the Padres won game 1 of that doubleheader 13-5, as 2 outs now for the Mariners. As I'm hoping that the Yankees can have some late inning magic and we can have some fun on the show. Robert, tell them what they've been watching.
You have been watching the R&R Sports Report live here on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. If you haven't liked or followed or subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do that. It is the R&R Sports Report on YouTube. And, sir, are you promoting your Red Bull flavored summer flavor?
I was hoping it was going to make a louder noise than that. But. Like the Colorado Rockies trade deadline, it kind of came out a little flat.
just a wee little bit.
All right, let's get into it. Let's get into some NFL because there's so much drama. We're not quite on the field yet. Again, the first preseason game is on Thursday. I'll be ready. I'm not going to watch it. We've already said I'm not watching these preseason games, but I'll be excited that there'll be actual action on the field instead of off the field. But we do finally get the punishment down for Deshaun Watson. He gets suspended for 6 games with 0 fine. The NFLPA, of course, is not going to appeal because this is great for them. Still waiting on the actual NFL, whether they will decide to appeal. They have till tomorrow, right? That's what we said?
Yep.
Right now, he's going to miss the Carolina game, the Jets game, the Steelers, Falcons, Chargers, and Patriots, and come back just in time to take on your Baltimore Ravens. Your thought on this joke of a suspension?
I think for me it's more of and hearing everybody talk about it a little bit. They're kind of waiting to hear how the public cry is, how the fan cry is about what how people feel about it, where it was not enough, too much, or whatever. I think it's going to boil down to what they end up hearing from the fans. They have until tomorrow to finally make a decision whether they'll appeal it. Watson can be out there during preseason stuff, but if everything goes through, he won't be able to practice, once that starts. And he could, if they do come to the point where he will appeal it, he then can play those first 6 games, and then kind of like what they did a few years ago and back the suspension up if it's upheld for the 6 games. So there's still a possibility that he plays these games if he goes to the appeal process side, or does he just take his 6 games and the NFL just goes there? Unfortunately, I don't think Miss Robinson was quite thinking right when she made the decision. I mean, yes, there's allegations. There's 30 women. There's no cameras in these rooms of all of this stuff. But, how do you get 30 women to all say the same exact thing, which is a little rough? Why are you going so light on this when you should be throwing the book at him and, another year suspension?
We see a lot of those situations, and I it's a touchy subject, so I'm going to try to say it as politely as possible. But there's times where people will just jump on the bandwagon on these things, not just sexual allegations, but on anything.
Mm-hmm.
How many times on commercials is like, hey, did you eat this one kind of food? You might be in line for some cash settlement. People will jump on it. They'll never even heard of the brand before and just try to get a piece. And there are times where something like this will happen and other names will come out, or which is, I think this is the case, you'll have somebody brave enough to step up and call him out on his crap, and that'll give some of these other women enough strength to come out and say, oh yeah, he did that to me too. And according to the New York Times, it's only about half the women that he did this to that have come out and win with lawsuits against him, which he settled against all but one right now. So it's a complete mess, and it's like 6 games is a joke. It's an absolute joke, especially when you look at some of the other suspensions that they've given out. I mean, I get on Josh Gordon all the time for, dude, just stop smoking weed and you won't get suspended for a year. But the dude was suspended for years for his weed consumption, and it's nothing compared to what Deshaun Watson is doing. Though, as you said, we don't have video cameras in these rooms. Ray Rice, what was his suspension? 3 games?
Mm-hmm.
Until the video came out, and the video was so horrible that we never saw him play again.
Mm-hmm.
Do masseuses now have to record them giving massages to these people just as a backup for them trying to push something? Like, is this where we have to go? Because obviously the NFL does not care about their pleas or their stories. They care about their meal ticket. Cleveland didn't care. They gave him a ridiculous amount of money and built a contract around, oh, hey, if you get suspended, you're not going to lose this money because we're going to set it up in a way that you don't. So it's a complete mess, and it's a complete joke to the NFL.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and I understand, I gotta get a massage to point of of like if for injuries, that kind of stuff. So if that's the case, why are teams not setting up? And I know teams do have
They do.
and that's the
Houston
thing.
got in trouble
Why?
because they were setting this up for him.
So why are they not? That's my thing. So why are they not using stuff in the team's facilities to do this stuff and
Because they
take this
wanted
up?
to cater to their star quarterback and set up. They were sending tables to his room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a joke. It's the whole thing's a joke. Though I will play devil's advocate because I've been thinking about this all day because I knew this was going to be a big topic on the show. And watching Rich Eisen and some of the other shows throughout, just trying to get other people's opinion on it so I could understand. I don't think I've heard this argument just yet. Again, I've not watched everything. So if anybody's listening or watching us and they're like, oh no, this person talked about it, let me know. But just to play devil's advocate, even though I don't agree with it, do you think Deshaun Watson only got 6 games because he already has missed a year? Because really Houston kind of suspended him for a year, though it was more of a we wanted to trade you anyways, and then this came out and ruined our plan to trade you, so we're going to sit you. Is there a chance that she went, he's been out for a season, so this is basically a season and a half suspension with time served?
And that's the big thing. Without you and I reading the 16-page report of where she came out with all this, I really think that has a lot to do with it. You look at the court systems and not just this scenario, but how many people know things that are happening with certain things. They have the preconceived notion going into something, and they've already made a decision before they've researched all the facts. That's what I think happened here. She knew, the judge, Miss Robinson, I think knew that Cleveland had already given him the 1 year, and they said, "Oh, maybe you've had enough." I don't think so. I think he hasn't had enough. I think he needs at least another year. You figure 6 games, yeah, that's a third of the season. Okay, I understand it's a third of the season, but you look at some of the things like you were saying, and a great point, and I forgot all about Josh Gordon. I mean, Josh Gordon getting in trouble for basically smoking weed, and you're gone for so many tests. You failed so many tests. You're laying hands on another human being, and you're only going to get this when the other one. I'm sorry, and I hate saying this, but it goes back to the whole same thing. I feel that the same thing has happened with Pete Rose compared to the stuff that Darryl Strawberry did. I mean, Darryl Strawberry got, basically slap on the hand for, the cocaine and all that, to a guy that made a bet on, other teams, and he's admitted to betting, and you're still not going to let him there. I mean, that's the preconceived notion of some
that's
of
a
these
set rule that Major League Baseball had. That's the same where people are trying to compare the Calvin Ridley betting on his team while he was off with this. I mean, that's a competitive thing, and I have no problem with the Calvin Ridley suspension, though I do like the joke that Calvin Ridley got suspended for a second year because he bet on how long Deshaun Watson was going to get suspended for and got it wrong. That was a funny joke to me. But no, I mean, if you just look at just the 6 games, it's not enough. And I hope the NFL appeals it and they go for more. Obviously, the outcry that I have seen has been all one-sided.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, unless you go look at Twitter comments, but that's just a vile place to begin with, and you don't need to look at Twitter comments ever. But I don't think 6 is enough. I don't think, even if you say last year counts as time served, that 6 games is enough.
You got in there.
I'm waiting for the update on my thing now. But by the way, Richie did just message me saying he's home now so the Yankees can win. So you guys, you're screwed. Richie wasn't home. Now he is. So now it's time to go. What would you, if you were in her position, how long would you have suspended Deshaun Watson?
I would have done another year. Easy. Another full year. And make some of these mandates 100%. You've got to go through all of this stuff and treatment, that kind of stuff. But, I think a lot of it has to boil down to also Houston making the changes of, and even all teams making the changes of what is conduct that if you're needing certain treatment, you have to have this treatment in said facility, and there's no
I think
more.
that needs to be a thing.
Yeah,
And
and
I
that.
think masseuses that do this traveling stuff or whatever, that it needs to be recorded.
Mhm.
You can sign a waiver that says that if somehow this footage gets out of me massaging your body, or obviously when you get this stuff, you're going to dress down, and you need that privacy. So you're going to have it in there that, hey, if anything leaks from this and exposes you in any way, then you can sue the hell out of me.
Right.
But it's sad that we're at this point, but you have to have the video evidence if something like this ever happens, because again, videos are the most important thing to this stuff anymore. It's so sad, but true. Again, look back at Ray Rice. He was 3 games. He went from 3 games to never seen again. The same thing would happen here. Deshaun Watson got 6 games. If there was one video out there of him making advances that were unwarranted and unwanted, and we saw a video of it, and we saw how uncomfortable the lady was over it, we would never see Deshaun Watson again. And that's just one case. He has 30, maybe 60 of them. And all we would need to see is one on video, and the dude would never play again. It's sad how that works.
And listen, it might not even come to that too. If we still have four women out there that are still not settled with their case, there's still a strong possibility something else happens with that case. So, this story is far from over.
I agree.
Whether they do 6 games or they go longer and NFL decides they're going to do something longer, I think we see this whole thing for another year and a half, 2 years down the road.
Yeah, again, the NFL can appeal up till tomorrow. So, of course, check our Facebook page. Robert will post any articles or whatever that obtain to that. And then next week we will dive into it even more, because we got to talk about the drama. Luckily, next week we will be doing, we'll start doing our division previews. Let's go AFC and NFC South. Next week, we will do one division from each conference each week. And then that last week before the season starts, we'll do our Super Bowl and playoff and awards previews and stuff. We'll do some college stuff in there as well. But next week, we'll get the AFC and NFC South divisions and our previews for those two as we start getting ready for the actual NFL season.
Let's go.
And we can stop talking about the drama, but we can't end it yet. We got to talk about more drama, because the Miami Dolphins can't stop illegally communicating with people. Apparently, there were all those fantasies of Tom Brady retired so that he could become part owner of Miami and then unretire and call himself quarterback of his own team. We all joked about that. Apparently that was true. And the Miami Dolphins are now in trouble for it.
It's just, it's a chuckle to see. And for Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, to deny all of it, it's very comical. If you look at what's happening after the 6 months, they've come down and now fined Stephen Ross $1.5 million and told him, you are suspended through October 17th, which, how funny is this? 6 games that you have no contact with your team. And just
illegal phone calls and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
same thing.
You shake your head. He has denied the allegations of allegedly offering past coach Brian Flores, go figure, $100,000 to throw each of these games for every game he lost, which is just beyond me. And then you look at the other guy that gets in trouble, and that's the vice chairman, Bruce Beal. He's fined only $500,000, and then he can't go to any league meets for the rest of the season. Well, what's the deal? So you're gonna send somebody else to represent your?
Yeah, they'll just get.
Yeah, I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? But now you find Stephen Ross in the middle of all this. What happens? Does that mean now he gets another owner coming in, a partner that's going to do this, or what?
Aren't all the league meetings in like some fancy place? So it's just basically saying you can't have your vacation.
Yeah.
But no, the big thing is Miami loses their first round pick next year. They still have a first round pick because they have the 49ers first round pick, but they will not have theirs. So we'll only have 31 picks in the first round next year. They also lose a third round pick in 2024. It's just one of those things. It's kind of a slap on the wrist in the end of Miami was trying to pull some strings and didn't do it the most legal way. I honestly, I don't find this as a big deal. The Brian Flores stuff, if it was true, we've talked about it several times on the show. If they were trying to pay him to lose games and really tank, I mean, that's one thing, but them talking to people, I always hate this illegal communications with people or tampering with free agents, and you cannot talk to a free agent until we say you can. It's like, none of the teams follow those guidelines. Well, they're just like, well, we can't talk to him, but this player knows him. So, hey, you go talk to him.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. And I kind of laughed about it when I read the article because I have been watching, and you have been watching too, the series with the captain. And they talk about Brian Cashman sitting next to Alex Rodriguez at the award ceremony, which was before all of the movement free agents deadline and stuff. And he throws out the idea of Alex Rodriguez coming to New York instead of going to Boston, which everybody thought too. I thought how funny I thought those two were so much alike. And I'm like, how did Brian Cashman not get in trouble for talking to Alex Rodriguez, who was sitting right next to him, doing basically kind of the same thing?
Major League Baseball, NFL, two different things. And the Yankees can do whatever they want, remember? You guys must be changing pitchers or something. Yeah,
we are.
Matt Brash. Okay. I was just waiting for updates. You guys are too afraid of Trevino.
Swanson just pitched in 2/3. I think, I don't remember who's on. I think Benintendi's on first base.
No, it's Carpenter. Carpenter walked earlier. Some other NFL news. Deebo Samuel got paid. This is another wide receiver getting all of the money. 3 years, $73.5 million. So the trade rumors have now completely gone away for Deebo Samuel. To think that the Jets offered him that 10th pick that turned into Garrett Wilson, and San Francisco turned them down. We'll see how that goes. He's still waiting to get back on the field with all the money. It does look like Trey Lance is going to be the starter. So now we wait for what Jimmy Garoppolo goes. Is he just going to get released? Are they waiting for a quarterback to go down? What do you think the move's going to be?
Listening to Kyle Shanahan today, because he was asked that question as Mooch was there today for NFL, and I had it on one screen as I was doing stuff today, listening to him. And he was quite adamant of he is going to be our starter. And then he didn't really lead into what the idea was going to be with Garoppolo. So I still think that, I don't see him getting traded into San Francisco. I still think San Francisco moves them. I don't think he goes in division. So Seattle's pretty much out of, but where would you send him? That's the question right now. Where would be the best fit for Jimmy G over the next, couple weeks? I mean, could he be a great, and this is the team that I thought of, could he be the next backup to Kirk Cousins in Minnesota? Could that be a fit for him?
Because Cousins be a backup though. I mean, if he's just going to be a backup, why not be a backup in San Francisco behind a young quarterback who could get injured?
Right. And I don't remember who else is all there. I forget who else is in the depth chart for San Francisco, but I'm looking up here.
I don't know. There's not really a place other than Seattle that really sticks out to where Jimmy G could go now. Yeah, and that's, he can go to Detroit because, I mean, do you really believe in Jared Goff? But they just traded for him last year. Yeah. I would send him to Miami, but Miami seems to love Tua.
Right. So behind Jimmy G, you have Nate Sudfeld and Brock Purdy. So, do you hold on to him one more year and then move on from him and see, just test out the free agency with him. I think that might be what they end up doing. Who knows? We still got a couple weeks before that all boils over.
For sure. Some COVID news. Kyler Murray of Arizona and Pete Carroll of Seattle both have COVID. Haley has COVID, so I've kind of gotten a little mini vacation as a close contact. She's doing fine. She was sick a lot on Saturday, but she's doing fine now, just recovering, but been hanging out and watching shows and watching movies, but she's doing all right. So COVID is still around. You put on your alternate uniforms and helmets. Which one really stood out to you?
I looked and saw the Cincinnati Bengals white and black helmet. That looks pretty slick. I'm excited to see as Rasher throws a pass ball past Raleigh, and now Carpenter's all the way at third. Ugh.
All right, do that one more time, please. Just do that one more time.
No. So I think that hat is really cool. They are doing black and white options. Teams can pick their option of what they want to do, color rush stuff.
I'm so glad that they're bringing back these options. They went away when they had the one helmet rule, and now I'm glad that they've gotten it back where
I've seen some painted. I've seen some painted gold face masks, so it looks pretty cool with what they were doing. Starting there we go. Good. All right. Now we finished the bottom of the 7th inning.
8th inning.
Back to was it the bottom of the 7th or bottom of the 8th?
Bottom of the 8th inning.
All right, it's over now, so we're gonna move on. We're moving on.
The Yankees just setting up that walk-off win. Don't worry. Don't worry. Which ones do you like? So you like the Bengals. I love the Patriots. I love the old Patriots look with the actual Patriot on it, like hiking the ball on the helmet. I love that one.
And the other one that was kind of cool is seeing, and as much as you saw, I posted thing in our bowling league about Dallas, the Dallas Star being a black and white helmet, or a white helmet with black on it. It looks pretty cool. I like those old white style. That just, for me, the Cincinnati one just kind of stood out really well.
I'm a big throwback guy. I like the Giants one, where it just writes out Giants instead of the NY on the helmet. There's a lot of teams that went full black. Arizona did. The Jets did. Carolina's all black. Looks really, really cool. I'm a big fan of that one. Houston Texans went with red on theirs. I think that'll be a slick look. I like these alternate ones, and I think they'll have a lot of fun with it.
Yep.
For sure. Sadly, we do have to talk about training camp injuries, because that's always the big news before the season gets going, especially when preseason starts. Tim Patrick tore his ACL this morning. Obviously, he's out for the year. It's not a good thing for him. Bills safety Jordan Poyer hyperextended his elbow today. He'll be out for a few weeks. Irv Smith Jr. had thumb surgery today. He's hoping to be back before the season opener. Van Jefferson of the Rams had minor surgery on his knee. He believes he'll be back for the opener there as well. Maurice Hurst for the 49ers tore his bicep, and he is done for the year. Chase Young's not going to start the season. He had a knee injury for the Commanders. Ryan Jensen, the center for Tampa Bay, had a serious knee injury. He might be done for the year. I know the Ravens are worried about a couple players not being ready for the Jets. So it's just that time of year where you want to get people ready, but there's a chance that you might lose them for the whole year trying to get them ready.
Yeah, and so that's the big thing. And like you and I were talking in the very beginning of the show, this is what's exciting for us to watch. I'm all about watching the injury headlines, during preseason. So as far as everything else, I'm glad some of these guys are playing for positions, but you know your team and who's and what is going to happen. So it all boils down to these injuries. And I think the big one is, and I'm really curious how it pans out, is Ryan Jensen. What's it going to look like for the center of the main guy in front of Tom Brady? What's that going to look like for him this year? So
again, the Hall of Fame weekend is this weekend. You have your Hall of Fame game on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time between the Raiders and the Jaguars. Again, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne will not be playing for Jacksonville. Your inductees that will have their speeches this weekend: Tony Baselli, Cliff Branch, Leroy Butler, Art McNally, Sam Mills, Richard Seymour, Dick Vermeil, and Bryant Young. Out of all those speeches, which one are you most excited for?
Honestly, I'm not excited to watch any of them. This will probably be the first year that I do not watch any of the highlights or even any of the enshrinement. None of. I mean, there are some great players. Don't get me wrong. Sam Mills, great player for Carolina. Tony Baselli had a great season. Years with Carolina. Also, Dick Vermeil. I think out of all of them, probably Dick Vermeil would be the most interesting. Even an official, Art McNally. I mean, and there isn't anybody that stands out this year for me. So, with that being said, I'm going to pose a question to you. If you look at the others that were finalists this year, and I'll rattle off the names, which of these guys get in? Still, I'm a huge Jared Allen fan. I'm shocked that he is still not in after now his second year. But I'll name off these names. Tell me who gets in out of this list of names. You have Jared Allen, Torrey Holt, Rondé Barber, Willie Anderson, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, Reggie Wayne, and Patrick Willis. Who out of that list, who were finalists this year, get in 2023?
I think Jared Allen and Torrey Holt will. I think Devin Hester should. He changed the return game. Right? He was doing things in the return game that you'd never seen before. Like there were points where I just do not kick it to him. And I think that is underrated what he was able to do for the Chicago Bears. He was a big reason they went to the Super Bowl. And then he returned the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl for a touchdown. So does he get in? Probably not, but I think he should.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel? And the name that I agree with you 100%. That's why I put Torrey Holt and Jared Allen first. A huge Jared Allen fan. The other two that I would be very shocked that they don't get a nod would have to be Reggie Wayne and also Zach Thomas. I know Zach Thomas was talked about being one of the best defensive players, in the 90s, early 2000s, being down there in Miami. But I think Reggie Wayne is the quiet one that I'm shocked that it hasn't got in.
Yeah, that's good as well. A couple finals so far in Major League Baseball that have gone on since the last time we updated you. Cardinals beat the Cubs 6-0. Diamondbacks beat the Guardians 6-3. Pirates beat the Brewers 5-3. Right now, Mariners up by 1. Yuck.
With one on too. So
come on, Albert Abreu. All right, you got some questions for me, and I have no answers for you.
So this year we saw 10 different coaches that got hired at new jobs, and with those, I wanted to hit you with a couple of questions and your opinion, and it's not a lot of detail, but out of these 10 coaches, and I'll list these 10 coaches for you here in a second. I'm going to have a few questions about it. First one is, which coach will have the best year out of all of these? But then we're going to talk about Lovie Smith in Houston, Matt Eberflus in Chicago, Doug Peterson in Jacksonville, Dabble in New York, Kevin McConnell in Minnesota, Mike McDaniel in Miami, Nathaniel Hackett in Denver, Dennis Allen in New Orleans, Josh McDaniels in Vegas, and Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay. Which coach will have the best year, do you think, out of those 10 coaches?
So are we just talking about who's going to have the best record?
Who do you think is going to have the best year, record-wise, playoff-wise, and so on?
Probably Todd Bowles. He's been in that system for years. It's not going to change things too much. Still Byron Leftwich there as your offensive coordinator. So even the offense and Tom Brady, none of that changes. Todd Bowles has had head coaching experience already, head coach for the Jets. I think it's going to be an easy fit for him. Obviously, Nathaniel Hackett comes into a job with Russell Wilson now, but that's a very, very difficult AFC West. Dennis Allen comes in with a very, very good defense with New Orleans. I think there's a few coaches in here that are going to have very good first years with their team.
I happen to agree with you with the Todd Bowles one. The other one I think will have a great year and I think this is going to be a good fit for him. And it is Josh Daniels in Las Vegas. I think he's going to come in, and with Carr, I think he's going to light a different fire under these guys. I think they're in Sin City.
Josh McDaniels, though, just seems to me like one of those. He's a great coordinator, not great head coach.
Well, it'll be interesting.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to flip it to the other side. Who has the worst year? And for me, it's a no-brainer in this one.
It's Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
I've never really believed in him. He's another guy that, as a coordinator, he's fantastic. But as a head coach, I don't like some of the decisions he's made, especially with Chicago. His roster's horrible. It's a complete mess down there. But I think they're the first pick next year. And Lovie Smith might be in trouble for his job.
Yeah, and I think the same thing. I mean, I don't think he is the coach. I think it's time for him to move on. Oh, bad call there. Strikeout. Anyway, so with that, who will have the biggest impact with the players, organizations, and fans, win or lose? And why I ask you this question is you said a coach a minute ago with his relationship with Russell Wilson, and you watch some of the highlights of how practice has been going in Denver. Nathaniel Hackett has to be one of the most energetic guys, bouncing all over the field. I think could be that impact guy and get the fan base excited, get the organization. And I think he's going to be a player's coach. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. For me, it's Doug Peterson for Jacksonville. He had a lot of fun with Philadelphia. He has a very young team in Jacksonville, and he's not Urban Meyer. So right now, right there, the fan base is going to love him even more just for the fact that he's not Urban Meyer. That's the job you want, is to come in after a complete train wreck. Because no matter what, it's like I came into a mess. So now he's going to have a little bit more time to change things. He has a lot of talent down there in Jacksonville. So I think he's going to make a great impact. Brian Daboll is not going to make a great impact as far as record-wise go, I think, the first year, because he still has Daniel Jones as his quarterback. But coming from a Buffalo system and the offense he was able to put in Buffalo, I think could really work with the Giants if given a couple of years to really turn things around there. So I think Daboll could have a long-term impact with the Giants.
Okay, so which of these coaches make the playoffs?
Bowles for sure from Tampa Bay. The NFC South is not strong. He still has Tom Brady as a quarterback. That's pretty good. Maybe Kevin O'Connell with Minnesota. They're kind of that fringe team right now. Again, we're going to get into our division previews starting next week. We're going to go with the South teams. But as I start to get playoff pictures in my head of who I think could make it, Minnesota is kind of on that fringe. And the same goes for both Denver and Las Vegas. So Josh McDaniels and Nathaniel Hackett have to go on that list too.
And I think in the last question, I think you answered it a few minutes ago. Which of these coaches is going to be the first one relieved of their duties?
Yeah, I think it's Lovie Smith. I think he was just kind of thrown in there just as that the old tenured head coach to try to fix a program, and I don't think he's going to have a great time with it. And he might not get fired. He might just go, screw this. I don't want to be here.
I've got a strong agreement to that. I think he doesn't make it past the year, especially with all the drama going on. It'll be quite interesting. So that was your new coaches edition. Ask Randy. So good segment there. And so
don't blame Randy if he was wrong on all of it, but we'll see how it goes. New coaches are always interesting, and we have a lot of them. Just throw a number out there right now. How many new coaches do you think we'll have next year? I've had so many lately. It's not going to be a lot. I'll say like 4. Maybe
I would do the under if we were going there. I think maybe 2. Would be
there's always a couple surprises in there.
For me,
Pete Carroll's one.
I'm good. I don't want to piss off those Seattle fans, but that's the big one. I think is
I'm not afraid to piss off Seattle fans.
How many
Yankees?
How many more years are we going to have? Pete Carroll there. So
who knows? All right, let's talk some SummerSlam real quick.
Okay.
I thought it was a fantastic show. I thought the opening and closing were the best of the show, and that's what you want. You want to come out with a bang. Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch killed it. One of the better women's matches we've seen this year, and they told a fantastic story. It was not clean the whole way, but they wanted to make it look like a struggle because they faced each other so many times over the last year or so. Stop spoiling stuff with your stupid clapping.
Sorry.
That's fine.
2-run lead now.
Damn it. That's all right. It's easier for a great walk-off for the Yankees. And then, of course, the return of Bailey and Io Sky. Now, instead of Io Shirai, I don't mind the name change there. And Dakota Kai, I thought that was very, very cool. Logan Paul. I hate that man as a human being, but he has done 2 matches, and they've both been phenomenal. As I've been joking with people, AEW has to feel really bad that they have all this indie talent, and Logan Paul comes in here, has 2 matches, and he's better than half that roster.
I tell you what, watching Logan Paul hit that Spanish fly off the top rope was just crazy good.
Spanish fly was good. His frog splash off the top rope to the table was clean. Obviously, The Miz carried him through the rest of that match. I thought those 2 did a great job. The other celebrity in there, Pat McAfee, I don't think that was his best match, but he and Happy Corbin had a pretty good match there as well. The rest of that, the middle part of that card was okay to me. Tag match was fine. The Ronda Liv Morgan match was cut short due to time constraints because Logan Paul and The Miz went a little long, according to reports. But they told a good story that kind of sets things up for down the line. But we got to talk about the main event.
Hence the text that you sent I sent you. My wife was all freaking out with with Ronda.
We got to talk about the main event, and by far not the best wrestling match. I don't know if there was a wrestling move in that entire match, to be straight honest, but I was very sports entertained by Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, last man standing. Brock comes out on a tractor, which was hilarious. I love watching the fan cameras of different entrances, and you see when Roman comes out that the tractor is like off on the side behind a lot of the fans, and obviously they moved it forward during his 5.5 minute entrance of Roman Reigns. But there was a reason for that. The tractor had to get into place. And then our friend David Diefenberg sends me a message as he's coming down to the ring in this tractor that he's going to flip the ring onto Roman Reigns so Roman Reigns could not get up and count to 10. And that almost happened as Brock Lesnar lifts the ring and completely blocks off the entire front row behind the ring, as then they wrestled on the side of it the whole rest of the time. But David messaged me right after that saying he was joking. That was I absolutely love that match.
Oh, it was probably one of the best ones we've had and seen. I told you, and the wife and I sat and watched it on Sunday afternoon as we had stuff going on Saturday, so we didn't watch it live. And it was just a crazy scene to watch him. I'm like, what the heck is he doing? And to see him load Roman in the bucket, lift him up.
And he could have him into
he could have went a little higher and rolled him out. I think would have been sold it a little bit more.
He lifted him up and then put it as high as the top turnbuckle and just
kind of
that didn't hit as well as it
should have. He should have had it up a little higher. I'm not shocked with the as quick as the match was over with Bobby Lashley and Theory to come in to try to make his entrance, and he wanted to try to beat him. But watching Lesnar F5 him out on the side, the suplex and that, there was a lot of entertainment with the things and the items around the ring. Wish it could have been a little bit more wrestling moves. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. We just needed a train wreck, and we got a train wreck. The only thing I wish they would have added, though it might have taken away from the match because it's more of a jokey thing. And I know he's not part of the company anymore. But when Brock Lesnar, and it might have been a safety thing too, let's just be honest. But when I'm hearing an echo, but that's okay. When Brock Lesnar lifted the ring, I wish Hornswoggle was under there and came running out. I think that would have been great. But again, it kind of would have been too jokey. I love Paul Heyman begging with Roman Reigns about his meal ticket. I loved Michael Cole yelling at the referee to count faster because Brock just kept getting up. I thought that was fantastic. The whole show was really good. And then again, I watched Raw live for the first time in years. A lot of wrestling on that show. I like the pace of it. I won't get into spoilers because I know Robert has not seen it yet.
Yeah, that's what I will be doing here shortly. So,
but there's a lot of wrestling on the show, and they built some really interesting things. So I like where WWE is going. I'm not fully on board yet. Like, oh, they're back and it's going to be this new renaissance. But I was very entertained these last couple of days. What I was not entertained by was my Hawthorne Hawks, who laid a complete egg against St. Kilda. They made it interesting. They went on like a 5-goal stretch there in the second half to get within 1 goal. They end up losing by 12, 75-63. It's totally fine. They were out of the playoffs anyways, so it's not a big deal. Melbourne got a big win against Fremantle, 85-39. Sydney crushed GWS 112-39. That wasn't even close. Richmond with a big win against Brisbane, 104-97, as they are trying to get themselves back into the playoff hunt. But the big game, and I'm sad Eric is not here at the moment to witness your excitement. But Geelong defeats Western 94-66, and I will give you the floor.
Yeah, another great match. This is 9 wins in a row for the ball club. They have been playing quite slow in the second quarter. They came out quite flat the very first beginning. Western took a 19-point lead after the first quarter, and Geelong didn't even score till the 4-minute mark remaining in the first quarter. So, I mean, to basically have 1 goal and 2 behinds in the first quarter, it was a little rough watching it. But then third quarter this year for Geelong just seems to be the quarter where they come back out after halftime, intermission time, and find something, as they scored 8 goals and 2 behinds just in that third quarter. And after that, it ended up being all Geelong. So excited to see where they're at. Right now, they've got a 4-point lead going in through week 20. Now they're in first place with 60 points. So it will be interesting, as St. Kilda, who is that final bubble team, is that team that we get to host in this week. And so that will be quite interesting.
Yeah, your main games this week. We got 4 games on FS2, so we'll go through those first. On Friday, 2:50 a.m. on FS2, you get Melbourne and Collingwood. At 9:10 p.m., you get GWS and Essendon. And then on Saturday at 2:25 a.m., you get Geelong and St. Kilda. And then 10:20 p.m., you get Brisbane and Carlton. Also on Friday, Hawthorn will take on Gold Coast. Western will take on Fremantle. That's obviously the bigger game. Fremantle in 6th place right now, and Western is in 10th. So that is a lot of playoff implications there. I didn't get to watch any of the bowling. Did you check out any of this doubles tournament?
Didn't get to watch not much other than to, I think it is recording tonight on FS1. I think they're showing it now tonight. But just reading, I love following Stephanie Johnson. Also, I do follow Shannon O'Keefe, and so saw a lot of their results in that. So EJ Tackett comes away with another mixed doubles win. This is 3 wins. He's been paired up with 3 different partners over the last few years, as he ends up winning it with Deandra Asbady in this one. He won it last year with Danielle McEwen, who happened to be down under with Jason Belmonte. Svensson was down there. They were all doing their big fundraiser, so they were not part of it. But great tournament with them. Deandra finally picks up her first win in 10 years. She hadn't had a win in 10 years on the PWBA. And then also, this is her first doubles win in 20 years. So They did quote EJ says, well, who's your partner going to be next year? And he's like, we'll just see how it happens, because he's won the last 3 in or last 2, and then 3 of the last 4 in there. So it'll be interesting to see who he pairs
You know
up
who messed up his 4-peat?
I do not.
Kyle Sherman. That was his first title. Well, half a title, as he calls it, before he finally won his first singles title this year. We look at NASCAR. What a mess. Verizon 200 at the Indy road course. That course needs to go away. Let's just bring back the Brickyard now. I'm done. I can't do it. Like, I know a lot of people are tired of how many road courses they've added. I like the variety of it, but this course just does not work. Mostly because the drivers don't understand what to do in turn 1. Instead of giving each other room and just going into, basically, turn 1 is a lot like if you ever watch any of the Formula 1 races. It's a long straight and then a tough turn right at the beginning. So it's a lot of tight-knit racing right on that first turn. Usually, you try to give each other enough room so you don't wreck. NASCAR's like, we're in these big cars. We don't care. They were going 6 wide into the first turn, where you aren't supposed to get more than 1. It was a complete mess. They were just beating and banging the whole way. It was a complete disaster of a race. It was a clown show at the end of this thing. So much so that Rash Chastain was in like 4th or 5th place going on to the green-white checkered. And there are different points on this track that if you overdrive a corner, you kind of have to follow this path. So it's supposed to take you a little bit longer as your penalty for missing this corner. But when you're going 4, 5, 6 wide into this first turn, Ross Chastain said, screw it. And he just took the access road and went around turn 1. Instead of beating and banging with everyone else, he ended up right next to the leader and ended up taking the lead for a moment. Obviously, NASCAR went, no. You can't use our rules against us and make us look stupid. So then they said that lap did not count, so he finishes 27th. But they let him stay out on the track, so now he's racing. I forget who finishes second in this race, but he's racing with him for second place instead of letting that second place driver try to catch up to Tyler Reddick, who ends up winning the dang thing. It was just a complete disaster of a race. Chase Elliott was like sitting second and third, and I'm just begging for the race to end. Just take your second or third place finish. You're happy with it. Caution comes out. He finishes in like 20th because he wrecks, because it was a mess. It was a complete mess. Go watch the highlights. They're hilarious if you want that. But man, it was not a technical style race at all. They're at Michigan next week. Firekeepers Casino 400. Oh, IKF struck out. Yankees down to the final 2 outs, trying not to have a tied series with the Mariners. Go ahead. Tell me about the golf.
Oh, listen, I might say one quick comment. Live Golf, Sergio Garcia decides to join Live. We'll leave it at that. Other than I have seen charts
I
now.
shot a 90. What did I shoot against you a couple weeks ago? 95 Live.
95.
Sign me up. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. He does sign. He does admit making money going there, but it was kind of funny. I did see a chart that showed how much their views are down over the last 4 tournaments. It's quite funny.
Yeah, because it was a cool new thing, and then people watched it and went, "Oh, it's just golf."
Yep. So.
And if you're into golf, you're going to watch it, and if not, then whatever. One thing I will say about the Live Golf thing, and it's the one thing we were hoping that was going to happen when it first got announced. PBA came out with their prize pools for next year, and it's the highest they've ever had. Mm-hmm. So that's good. That's good for the golfers.
I was just going to touch on that. PGA does come out with their schedule this last week. How many events? 47 events and a larger prize pool. So look for that to make a huge difference in that. We'll see how all these others go and come together. But enough about Live. How about we talk about the hottest guy on the tour right now, and that has to be Tony Finau. Gets his back-to-back win. This is the first back-to-back win by any player in the last 3 years. Finau shoots 26 under. 26 under. That's just nuts. Ends up winning by 5 strokes over Patrick Cantlay, Taylor Pendrith and Cameron Young. I think Cameron Young runs away with Rookie of the Year. He has been playing lights out. I love watching that kid play. But for me, Tony Finau has just been absolutely fire with his golf game over the last few weeks. How many bogeys do you think? And I told you last week he had a total of 3 bogeys last week at the 3M, and 2 of them came on Sunday. How many bogeys did he have this week?
5.
He had 1 bogey, and it happened on Sunday.
Damn.
So 4 bogeys in the last 2 tournaments as Munoz gives up a base hit there. Mariners still lead 8-6. Mariners still lead 8-6 right now. But right now,
coming to the plate.
We don't need to see that right now. But Tony Finau right now. Tony is the hottest golfer going on, and so look for him to have a big showing this week as they travel to North Carolina, where it's supposed to be extremely warm from what I saw earlier. The Wyndham Championship. This is the last regular season match for the year before the PGA starts their playoffs next week with the St. Jude's Championship. So it'll be interesting. Defending champ there is Kevin Kinzer, but like right now, like I'd say, Tony Finau is probably one of the hottest players right now. Joel Damon back in action. He did not make the cut this last week. He will be in action. He'll tee off at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday, and he'll be playing the first couple days with Jim Herman and Billy Horschel. And Horschel is one of those ones I was looking. He is actually in the top 10 as a favorite at 20-1 odds to win this Wyndham Championship.
Sorry, I'm very focused on this game right now. I was going to bring up, because when you were talking about that, I was looking. Why can the PGA never come to the Pacific Northwest?
Well, they did. They did a couple of years ago. They were in Seattle.
I'm talking about next year when I'm trying to plan different things.
Oh, yeah. That'd be nice if we could get a tournament out there in the Seattle area, Auburn, that general location where it happened a few years ago. And I remember that being on a course that everything looked so burnt. It was all right on the coastline. Everything looked so dark and burnt grass and all that. It wasn't a very clean looking course. I'll have to go back and do some. I know they don't want to pitch to him.
God, no, these are close.
Bad thing is,
according to my Gamecast, I'm not watching the stream. I don't want to kill the internet, but
so yeah. So Joel Damon, if you want to follow, make sure you're watching. Again, he tees off at 10 o'clock on Thursday.
We got to do an R&R Sports Report sporting event thing next year.
There you go.
I can't this year because we spent too much money on Lambeau. But still waiting for the MLB schedule for next year to come out. It'll be come out pretty soon. There's a walk. So dirty. Come on, Rizzo, make them pay. Just chickens. Walk judge 3 times in this game. But as I was looking at the PGA stuff, that would be a fun thing to go to. But
yeah, I was to say I have to look that. I'm like 30 seconds behind you on your.
Of course. The one time they go to Vegas is in October, so I can't even say when we go down to Nationals to do that. But who knows? Any other things you got for the show today?
Well, I was looking here the last time that PGA was up here was, I want to say it was 2019. I'll have to find the PGA Pacific Northwest Tournament. I want to say that's what it was. That'll be interesting to see that. And that was, yeah. I'll have to do some research, find that. I do have Who Am I if you want to do it. Nobody here to help you, but that's
what's scary. And I don't have a ton of time to think. But go ahead. Let's finish off the show with a loss.
Actually, I was nicer to you because you told me that I never tell you
I need
the
teams,
teams
man.
first. Okay, so here's the first one doesn't talk about the teams, but the second one does.
Okay.
I am a Hall of Famer. I'm a 4-time Pro Bowl player and Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
During my 11-year playing career, I played for 3 teams: Seattle, Indianapolis, and Arizona. I was the 4th overall pick in my draft class. I had 91 touchdowns in 3,046 touches, and I had 15,610 yards. I was the NFL rushing leader twice in back-to-back seasons. I am
Say the team names again.
Seattle, Indianapolis, and Arizona. I am an all-time leader in rushing yards, attempts, and touchdowns for one of my pro teams. I was one of the most successful running backs in my college history, ranking 3rd all-time in rushing yards with 2,900 yards in just 3 years of college. I still hold the single-game rushing record for my alma mater with 299 yards rushing. And I also hold the most games with 100-plus yards rushing with 14. I am a yard rushing club, and I am 13th all-time on the rushing list.
So one name came to mind when you said Arizona and Indy, but I don't remember them playing for Seattle. So I don't know if it was like their rookie year and I'm just not thinking about it. But there's only one name that really came to mind as far as running backs go for those 2 teams. It's Edgerrin James.
Look at that. You are the man.
When did he play for Seattle, though?
That was his last year, I believe. I changed the order.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah, I changed the order because I didn't want to.
You guys are such chicken.
I did not want to say. I did not want to say Indianapolis first, but I could have also said he was in the Ring of Honor too. So he was.
I was trying to think of good Colts running backs, and it was Marshall Faulk and Edgerrin James, but Marshall Faulk was Rams, not Cardinals. So that's. But I was so stuck on the Seattle thing. It's like, am I missing somebody?
Well, I'm proud of you. You did not,
please, buddy.
You didn't need to have any help today, but I was nice.
It helps with the teams because then I can start narrowing stuff down.
I kind of did it in reverse order, but
that's totally fine. I didn't even think about ended a career kind of a thing. But
so another bonus question with this, is he was drafted 4th in his class. Do you know who was drafted before him?
What year?
In 1999. Okay.
Is that the Vic year?
No,
I don't know.
It was one of the biggest flops for Cleveland. Tim Couch.
Ooh. Oh, is this just the return? The first when Cleveland came back?
Yeah. So he was the first draft pick in 1999. Donovan McNabb was picked 2nd out of Syracuse, and Akil Smith was 3rd picked out of that class, with Edgerrin going 4th. So
sorry, right now I'm focused. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Gleyber Torres is up at the plate because your team was scared and 4-pitch walked Anthony Rizzo after a 5-pitch walk to Judge. I'm not gonna. I want to be on the show. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
It's up on the end. MLB has cut into it, and it's showing right now.
I'm at 1 and 2. Oh, well, you're going to spoil it for me.
Oh, strike right down the middle.
Lame.
So now, listen, it's going to come down to tomorrow. It's going to be who do you like, Castillo or Cole? I mean, which one is going to have the better game?
Castillo is going to hate life with Seattle, and it's going to fall apart. No, good win, sir. Splits the series 1-1 right now. I'm going to get out of here, go see if Boston can keep Houston 3 games behind the Yankees for best record. we made it through another show. A little bit of a wild one as the Yankees are playing the Mariners. It'll be the same thing next week. But we'll make it through. Trade deadline took up a lot of time that we will find for other things. Again, the NFC South and the AFC South will be our preview next week. We'll give you our division winners and possible playoff teams, players to look out for. We'll kind of go through all the different moves that each of these teams did and kind of get you ready for the NFL season. But for now, that's Robert. I am Randy. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week. But for now, we are